Well, I'm sorry, I nearly forgot about you. Putting some trains away. That sounded like a derailment right off the bat. Don't think it was. I think it was something on the track from the painting the other day. Can you see how much better that would look with any background? Really, really soon we're going to be finishing this off. It's coming. Can you hear the difference? Well, you can't with me talking. How quiet the trains are when there's no ballast. One of the next things I need to do is to get this thing into the computer. 68, I think I called it. I know. Just 62 was already taken. For whatever reason, you see that 6002, I've called that 62. So these are all the trains. I will admit to having not been very professional about this. What I've done is just given them rough names and numbered them off. So trains are engines, and I tell you, once you go down the wrong road, it's very, very time consuming to come back out and sort it out. I don't have the right icons. I've imported one or two, but I haven't yet figured out how to put them here. That would be a first step in the process, I think. I am quite sure you don't want to watch me typing numbers into a computer. So I'm just going to add that train and I'll get back to you. It's got a temporary icon, this one here. I've called it 68 tube train bracket 62. Its reference number is 68. And if I double click there, it will bring up the controller for it here. I've only put the function of the lights there, so let me just click on that. Let's see if it works. Left-handed mouse click. Yep, can you see the lights going on and off over there? Which means I have control of it, which is a handy thing. My wife asked if he'd got the sack because there's a new signalman in there. And I had to quickly come up with something. And what it is, it's a change of shift. So the guy inside has just taken over, and he's taking his dog not for a wee, he's taking his dog home. I stopped the black schools over there. It was busily heading home for the night because the track it's on would have been in collision with this. There are a very, very few places on the layout where a train is not detectable. So if it were back here beyond, there's a, is it here? Somewhere there is a brake section, but when it's sitting here, it's between the blocks. Yes, not the smartest move, Ian. So at some point in the not too distant future, we are going to need to sort out those blocks. But in the meantime, we've got an underground train that needs programming properly, having some CV values changed, and we've got a school sitting behind it waiting to move. The take-up speed of the silver 62 stock, once it gets going, it's fine. It's just the CV value, whichever one it is set to, I'm so tired. So we're going to get that out of the way and change it. So we need to get it beyond the point. And I'll have to start slowing down now or it will drift off around the layout. Yeah, that's at 0. Come on, you can stop if you want to. Don't make me come back there. If whoever designed the chip knew how these things slam their brakes on and off. Yes, so we need to change this point here, move it over to the other side there, and then get the schools home. I love these point motors, but they are noisy. Not quite at full throttle, but it's close. Come along, you can do it. Oh, so slow. That signal box does look well, doesn't it? Now that we've moved the underground train to there, I don't know which is the front and which is the back as far as the chips are concerned. That'll be interesting. So anyway, I can plonk it there. So that'll be a... it's on the track now. So now we know that's what it is, and we'll just see in a minute if it's the right way round. I moved it an inch or two, it wasn't, and so I've just dragged it to the other end. So the computer now knows where it is. I'll bring the schools, bring it around the loops here. It'll find its way through this mess, and then I'm going to take it into there. With a clear track in front of it, it can now proceed. Here it goes. Do you see the difference in the curves there? That long sweeping curve instead of the fourth radius or just over third radius here. I think the only way for it to travel will be down this line. Yeah, here it comes. You'll see it here, it's coming around, and I've routed it actually to the top one. We'll see what happens. There you are. So you might have heard it stop in the background. We'll bring one of the other two in there. This is obviously the easiest one to put away. I'll put it on the middle. This is the one that had been losing its programming, and I always had it that way round in the fiddle yard. I really should turn them around. They're all facing this way, but really I want the fiddle yards facing that way, or these particular ones. We're not doing that tonight. The difference between that last train and the underground train couldn't be further apart. The tank engine there, you turn it on, it's "Ooh, I'm going," and when it gets to where it's supposed to be, "Ooh, I'm stopped." So it's very stop-start. So its CV values, these are the parameters you can set for each chip. Those parameters need just slowing down a little bit, make it a little more genteel. But certainly the underground train needs livening up. Now the last of the put away moves will be this one, all the way around into the lower of the three hidden sidings there. It's quite lively also, but not anything like the tank engine. See the little wobble it has. And there's an axle squealing on that train somewhere too. See if you can hear it. It's either the tender or one of the front two carriages there. Yeah, it's the locomotive or tender. Now it has come to a sedately stop right there, and that is because this thing is sitting all the way at the other end of the block. So if I move this out of the way, just drive it that way, it should trigger the other locomotive to take off. Interesting to see if that works. Oh, come on, you grumpy old lady, you. You can do it. I had a thought whilst driving home today that the signal box there, you remember I painted no spares, so there's no white levers in there. Well, because there was once a siding there years ago, that would have created at least one spare, wouldn't it? And I was worrying about that on the way home tonight. But then I remembered we'd added this siding. So presumably the infrastructure for that one legitimately may have been moved to this. And do you know the sort of things I worry about? It's a toy, Ian, stop it. But since it's being taken over by the underground, I wonder if there is a signal box that ever controlled underground and overground at the same time. There must have been going back, but I would doubt there is any more. I don't know. I just don't know stuff, you see. And the more I dig and delve, the more I get myself into all kinds of trouble. So what is a steam locomotive doing on the branch, pulling a whole bunch of vans? Well, I can tell you what it's doing there. It was there to get it out of the way. And all of a sudden, I'd forgotten all about the schools. All of a sudden, it took off. Well, it was supposed to. Sadly, the lights are not on under there tonight. Where is it going? That's interesting. Oh, I see. It found a different way of getting where it needs to be. I'm a little concerned when you see these are pink, and this is white. That tells me it's run on a little bit, and that's consistently happening with that locomotive. So I need to, again, have a look at that. So this one needs programming. That one probably needs the parameters setting in train controller. That's this app. And then we need to clear the programming track of both that goods and that underground train. The branch is completely stacked. There are 3 trains back there, plus these 2. It can only really hold 4, and so that's 5, so there's 1 too many. Yes, about that. I did buy 2 new trains, didn't I? The only one thing for it is to build a new and bigger and better fiddle yard. Not today. Right, you need to move. You're number 5. I know you're an old friend. Let's get you out of the way. Now then, this should be straightforward. Yep, there it goes. Another one that jumps into action. There's Fred on the back waving at us. So that'll come in through the throat of the big station and onto the bypass line, which it has done nicely. The lights aren't on under there, which is a shame. I should put those on really. Haven't run the power supply out there yet, so I've been using a battery. There we go. Now this, of course, is why that's the other new train. Well, this part of it. I still haven't sorted out the headlights on that. I will, again, not tonight. This one next. Okay, here comes the 1938 stock. I do like ta-tung, and then ta-tung. Yeah. You can see the driver sitting at the back of that one. Now I'm going to have to be careful here because the 68 or 1962 stock, the train 68, is going to come hammering along at a snail's pace and then won't want to stop. So it's heading to the programming track. And it needs to stop. Yeah. Is it going to stop before the buffers? The power's off to it. Well, the power isn't off to it. You know what I mean. It's hit the buffers. I wouldn't say hit. It's nestled up against them. So there it is, sitting in the programming track. I have now got to flick the switch to make that platform the programming track, and then I've got to figure out what I'm going to tell it I want it to do. Now you might remember that these are the chips, plural, which is I think a rip-off, but anyway, it's what Bachmann does. These are the recommended chips for that locomotive. I'm trying to show you what it says there. Function 0, direction lights. Well, there aren't any direction lights. Function 1, it doesn't tell you what it's doing because it can't know. All it's doing is turning power on to function 1. Function 1 is, in fact, the passenger car lighting. So the other functions, all of those many functions not used actually. Now I've got to, do you see how tiny it is? That's all of the instructions you get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get onto the internet and have a look around and see what it is I need to do. There are many pages of such instructions. It'll take me a hot minute to figure it all out. Ideally, of course, I need to go through all of the CVs and see what value they're currently set at. So I'll see if I can do that. Well, I'm sure there's a lot more to do, but it now at least takes off at the right speed and stops at the right speed. I've asked it to turn around. So it should head off into the tunnel there. And in very short order, will come back out again. So the whole train has just gone right around the reversing loop and come back the other way. The points have changed. And it's heading off to the branch line station. What I'm expecting though is a little bit of a problem. I'm expecting it to stop short of being right into the platforms. Let's have a look, see what it does. Yeah, so it has stopped short, that much short. And the why behind the what? Well, right there is where the section starts, and two cars are all the way in, because the moment either end crosses that join, the section knows it's in there. Now, this is the first of the underground trains I've been programming to get into that block. I'm not going to bore you with the details, don't worry. But what I do have to do now is tell the block, not the train, tell the block, you've got to let this thing in. And the very first thing I had to do was allow the train in. And I'm boring you with the details. I can drive it in manually, but only very few trains are allowed to go into that on their own. So I can't accidentally route an express passenger train in there, and it would just be too long for the platform. So what I need to do is allow the trains I do want to get in there to get all the way in there. We're getting somewhere because the 1938 stock comes in and just leaves one car sticking out at the back. And essentially these are going to be the same as each other. So rather than changing the block, I'm now going to have a look at what the computer thinks that train is. This video will be a real put off to anybody that's DC from ever going to DCC. I know that. So there are CV values that adjust how the train behaves, but the program train controller also can adjust how the train behaves. So the two things can compete with each other. You almost want the CV values on the chip itself to be set so that it doesn't do stupid. It just takes off and stops. A bit like that tank engine, and then set the parameters in train controller itself. And that way, when the train comes into the station, it's not going to run through the end of the buffers because the braking characteristics are different train to train, if you see what I mean. So we'll see what we can do. But this is the kind of video that if I were to just let it run with me showing, there'd be about 10 people in the whole wide world that would be interested in it. Certainly, once it's done, it's beautiful because each train, then I'll show you over here, comes into the station and stops right where it needs to be. So this one, for example, although the locomotive is all the way at the other end, it's stopped where it needs to. This one comes in. There's a little bit of an issue with this one. It comes in when it's coming in that way, it stops right where it's supposed to. When it comes in the other way around, it stops right where it's supposed to. But if you bring it in backwards, the locomotive still goes to there. So all the trucks would sit out on the main line. So you do have to watch that if you're going to drive your trains backwards. But other than that, these things stop exactly where they want to be. And that is what I will be investigating on the computer for a little while. So this is the new takeoff profile. That seems much more reasonable. And the stop, a little abrupt, but it does stop in the right place at the right time. Now I need to look and see what the CV values are on this one, because it's now not doing the same as the other one, and the settings are the same in the computer. So yes, a lot of funny business. It can be frustrating, but guess what? That's all part of having a model railway. All right, let's see if we can tuck this one in front of the other. Not quite as lively. There may be something with the CV values still, but it is still moving much quicker than it used to. And I'm being very cautious. You'll see why in a minute. So we're taking it in past the signal box. And there we go. Right up against the other one. Yeah. Now, we don't quite clear the points, but that is 8 cars. So we've got trains stacked everywhere, quite literally in some cases. But with the whole branch line stuffed up with trains, it means the main line is clear for me to have a little play. So I'm going to leave it here tonight. Thanks for watching. And before you go, we'll just run a few trains around on the main line just to show that something still works. This whole programming thing is a little bit of a pain, but when you get it right, it's beautiful. And I will start to add a new fiddle yard soon. That's coming. Now then, you, I was bragging on you earlier saying you always stop in exactly the same spot. Look where you've got to. What are you doing? That is curious, I will say. Well, that's better. Not bad. Not bad. Bye now.